at least for me, if I'm thinking about lying, like an active lie, I'm mostly focusing on how likely is it that I'm going to get away with this or that they're not going to know, and how likely is this going to cause bad outcomes? If it does, can I wiggle my way out of it? I'm not a diagnosed pathological liar yet. Mostly because I have not been tested for this.
Yeah.
Might be a sociopath, who knows?
The following is a podcast with Graeme Taylor. He's a novelist, he's a producer, and he's a comedian. He's currently working on the Humber 2024 Student Show as a director and a producer. In this conversation, we talk about the morality of lying and its ethics and human nature. I hope you enjoy the podcast. What up, fools? This is the Joe Pedrosa podcast, episode number 33. Today I'm here with Graeme Taylor.
Hi, I'm Graeme, I think.
He thinks.
I think.
Graeme is a fellow student here at Humber. And we're studying comedy, writing, and performance together. He is probably one of the most talented writers that is in the program. He always helps me punch up my scripts, and he's running the student show that is happening. It's going to be done by the time this is uploaded.
So can't wait.
No, because this is
on
Thursday,
Monday,
and then I'm uploading this on Monday. So it's gonna. You're uploading. You're doing the student show. You're producing it.
Yes,
and directing
I
it.
am directing.
So what is your experience overall with it so far? It's your first time doing it, right?
Yeah, this is the first time I've tried directing something, and it's definitely stressful, though not necessarily in the way that I would have expected it to be. I think the main stress of it is just managing people. I think that's one of the biggest stresses, and that, as I've been told, because my dad used to be a manager for a company that his friend started, is that is really what the bulk of the work and the difficulty of it is.
Yeah.
It's not figuring out the tasks or anything. It's just managing the people.
Have you ever, I don't know what it's specifically called. It's like the four birds, like the eagle, the dove.
I've not heard
the
of this. No.
pigeon. It's like the specific type of personalities.
Yeah.
The peacock is one of them.
Is that just the flashy person?
It's like, I think it's like a grid. Like the top is basically extroverted, the bottom is introverted, and it's like how much like goal centered they are. Like,
so we're really just making fun of birds in this, right? That's how this works.
You've never heard of that?
I've not. No.
Okay, so yeah, I took it when I was tour guide. I used to be a tour guide before. Well, I was still tour guide, but we learned that in our tour guiding school, how to manage people, and it's basically you gotta people fall into these four categories. Like I was a peacock. It was like someone who was like very determined on their goals, but like was also kind of like extroverted and flashing, would just say whatever. But so managing people, like what have you learned throughout this entire process?
Mostly that scheduling is a nightmare, and that not everyone will ever be happy. That is an unachievable goal ever.
Yeah, that's fair. Because
my main goal then becomes just make as many people happy as I can.
Yeah.
Maximum amount of happiness is best.
What is, if you could share, what was the most difficult person, or like what was the experience with the most difficult person that you've had, if you can share?
Yeah, I would say that definitely the most difficult person I've had was a jackdaw.
A jackdaw?
That's a bird.
Okay.
It's definitely more of a jackdaw.
This is like highbrow comedy.
I'm
here.
focused. I know way too much about birds because of my dad, once again.
So what was the
it's
experience?
definitely, he was... I say he definitely was one of the more tough people to manage.
Yeah.
Not just because of, or less because of who he is, and more just because he's very busy. And so I think it's a good mix of just if you're very busy and you're not super open to certain plans or ideas, it can be a lot harder to make you happy for it.
Yeah.
I guess.
That's fair. But overall, you excited for the show?
More nervous than excited, but
More nervous?
Mostly nervous.
Yeah. Are you in any of them?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But it sounds exciting. I'll be there. I'll be watching, I'll be cheering you on from the back.
Yahoo!
Like, yeah.
Boo, this sucks.
No, I won't say that. I support comedy and I support all that stuff,
You're all pigeons.
Yeah. But is there any specific we were talking earlier about like this we were talking about like self-image of ourselves and how it kind of transforms into our comedy, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Is there a specific identity you say to yourself, or when you look at yourself in the mirror, do you view yourself a certain way? Does it come out in your comedy?
It's very jaded, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I don't take myself to be a person of any status or value necessarily.
Really?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's like a depressed thing.
Yeah.
I know where the depressed thing comes in, and it's not related.
Okay.
I'm kidding, of course. I'm about the depressed thing at all, not about it not being related.
Yeah.
I think that the main thing for me, at least how I feel about myself, is just that I often see myself as being inadequate to a caricature of who I want to necessarily be. Like, I want to be a lot more... I don't want to be like a special or person, but I also don't want to be like a normal person. I just kind of want to be like a person that you can identify by behaviors, but not a person that's like obnoxious necessarily, or a person that stands out in a crowd.
So you want to be unique? Identify by behaviors, but not be weird?
Not be overly, I guess. I just want to be like kind of a person that's somewhat memorable, and I feel like in a way that's often more of a, for lack of a better word, uninteresting person.
Yeah.
Like unique in a way that makes you not human almost.
Like, can you give me some notable figures that are...
So you're unique in a way that makes you feel like you're a caricature. You're a Charlie Chaplin, for example.
Oh, okay.
Like, he is just like a regular guy.
Yeah.
But he has this whole shtick to him.
Yeah.
Both pun intended there. That he is super excited and will fall down a bunch of things. Or Buster Keaton is another example.
Of
course, I'm just choosing old famous comedy guys.
Those are like the only two I know.
Famous comedy guys from the 30s that made movies.
So what would your character shtick be? Like that's the thing that you want to be known for?
Thing I would more want to be known for is what I'm struggling with. I find myself completely unable to like decide on what do people have any positive things to say about me relating to, and how could I use that? I can't figure out step one of that plan.
You can't find the positive?
I'm not sure what anyone particularly feels towards me that is consistent.
I think you're extremely highbrow comedy. Like, you are very articulate to a point where I just don't understand what you're talking about sometimes. I'm like, what do you mean by that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's very intellectual comedy. If I were to define you, like, as a caricature, like, kind of like George Carlin was kind of like that,
George Carlin
But he was also very political.
Yeah, he knew what he was actually doing.
Yeah.
That was the difference with George Carlin.
Would you see yourself going to that? Like, very intellectual comedy?
No.
No?
I think the main reason is just because I know words that I'm not intelligent. I know how to speak words. I'm not actually intelligent, though.
Well, you would fool fucking me, Graeme.
Well, yeah, because you don't know most of the words. You don't know how complete nonsense the sentences are.
Yeah, because we were talking about it. Like what I have. Just being in this program, what I kind of like boxed myself into, or like what I viewed other people viewed me as, was like the womanizer asshole. You know what I mean? You kind of like agreed when we were talking about it earlier. You think that's what you said? I did.
Yeah. I said that sarcastically.
But
yes.
I'm not trying to do that.
You're not trying to.
Yeah.
Part of it is just like your body. You've already alienated yourself in a sense. Yeah. Look how fabulous you are.
But what I'm trying to do is like moral philosophy comedy, which is very difficult, you know? Like I kind of did it with my sketch today. It's like Adam, Eve, and Yahweh. If you're Catholic, please turn off this podcast.
Baby Hitler.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's like the moral philosophy. Do you see yourself going in a specific direction at all?
I think
not at all.
I think not in any particular theme. I just kind of hope that at least that I can go in the direction of just being a writer. Because, as I mentioned before, I think that the biggest benefit or the best thing you can be as a writer is someone that is capable of writing in the mouth of someone else.
Yeah, that's what you were saying earlier.
You can climb into their skin and just get their lungs and start making the words out of those lungs, and they sound like they would still be theirs and not yours.
Yeah, so you have no interest, like, you don't really care about performing.
I like performance, although I'm just bad at it.
You don't think you're good?
I don't know.
Why is that?
I just think that I'm substandard. I don't get across the
like the
emotion
tone?
or the tone or anything effectively, and I often do things that aren't really logical, and I don't have the showmanship, that's for sure.
I think we did clown today. I think you were pretty good at clown. You were like playing that kind of like kind of clown, you know, like the anxious kind of scared clown trying to grab like the chairs and stuff.
My chair. I love chairs.
Yeah. But yeah, that's so you want to be a writer.
Writing is definitely where I'm more leaning towards. I do enjoy performance. It's just that I don't think I'm very good at it.
Yeah.
So
how about stand-up?
Voice acting is definitely a thing that I'm more directly inclined towards, because you're not in front of people there. You're behind a box just making a noise.
Yeah.
As for your question about stand-up, I don't particularly like stand-up that much.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you think it's because of the crowd? Like, you just mentioned you're in a box alone. That's kind of like me in a way, like why I do films and podcasts. I prefer it more because like you could leverage it through the internet, but also if we mess up, we could just redo it. You know what I mean? Versus when you're on stage, the pressure's on. If you bomb in front of someone, especially if someone you know, like I would rather bomb in front of a stranger than in front of a friend or a family, because like I'm never gonna see the stranger again. But the friend and family, they'd be like, oh, remember that time you fucking bombed and I cringed? And I'm like, oh yeah, I do. You know what I mean?
Yes, this is how human beings speak to each other.
Do you ever think that though? Like, is it the crowd?
In the case of stand-up, at least partially. I don't know why, but I find myself much more like I can't feel any stage fright while I'm doing stand-up, but I can feel my body feeling it.
Yeah,
I vibrate like a little boy that just found out about Christmas.
Yeah. And you also pulled a gun on stage, a fake gun on stage.
Okay, listen, I will stand by it. Good idea. Anyone at home listening, if you ever go on stage, go to a funeral, pull out a gun. It's a good idea.
What was your mindset behind that? Especially, like, I don't want to be rude, but, like, the way you kind of dress is, like, all black. You know, like...
All the other kids.
Yeah. Okay, how about that? Do you have that, like, do people think that about you, that
I look like a murderer?
Yeah.
Yes, actually, a lot.
Yeah, the murderer, I'm obviously not trying to be, like, all respect to you,
No,
man.
absolutely.
You're like my friend, I care about you,
Yeah.
but, like, you ever think that, like, people think you're a school shooter or, like, a murderer?
I've not heard school shooter beyond you, personally, but...
You haven't heard it beyond me?
Not school shooter specifically. Generally, it's just like, oh, that guy feels like if anyone here was going to murder someone, it's him.
Okay, but do you remember a couple months ago, Izzy was just like, you look like the school shooter shadow.
Yeah, well, that was also just like, that was what, as he mentioned, that was one of his like defaults. He just does that throwaway. He can use that. That's one that he can use on basically anyone. Because it isn't necessarily.
Really.
It isn't necessary. It works particularly for me, especially the shadow part, because.
Yeah. We're all
this
black?
is all I wear.
Yeah.
And sometimes a clown nose around my neck because I like it.
So do you care if people think you're a murderer? I don't.
Oh no, not at all. They're probably right.
Okay, bro. You're like fucking like torturing ants and shit in your backyard.
I am
You're
not
like
torturing ants.
you're like
Ants are beautiful. I'm using ants to kill people. That's what I'm doing. To be clear,
You're like torturing rabbits and shit.
I'm torturing rabbits with bullet ants.
Yeah. So you don't care about that.
That doesn't bother me, no.
Okay.
It's not as much how I feel necessarily about people, how people perceive me. I don't particularly mind how people perceive me.
Yeah. But you ever think of doing like a whole makeover? You know, we get like new attire, fucking getting yourself a good haircut, get some acne cream.
Oh, I like my hair, and also acne cream was very out of left field.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, just in case anyone didn't notice it yet, right?
That's my bad.
To be fair, that's also just not the acne thing is my fault. I drink way too much milk. Why
do you drink so much milk for?
Because I like milk.
Okay.
I just like milk.
Me and Conan had a bit how like white people love milk.
I do.
Like
I
you
love
just drink
milk.
it out of the cup like a cup of glass.
A cup of glass.
Yeah, no.
I drink. I pour it into a glass and I drink milk. That's. I feel like I'm talking to a caveman for a moment.
I don't know. I feel like that's so. Maybe we're different cultures. I found that so strange.
What, drinking milk?
Yeah, that's like the shit.
Okay.
Bro, we're not supposed to drink milk like past infancy.
We're not supposed to drink human milk. We're not supposed to. Okay, supposed to. We're not supposed to drink milk. You're right.
Yeah.
But
that's why everyone's lactose intolerant.
No, we were, but we have evolved because we've been drinking milk for so long to not be. Well, some of us, not everyone. And I happen to be one of those people who does not have lactose in their genes.
Yeah.
Or lactose intolerance. I also don't have lactose in my genes, but no one does. That doesn't make sense. I don't have lactose in my nipples.
Yeah. But okay, before we talk about the looks thing, we were talking about being on stage, the way you dress, the gun and stuff. What was the whole mindset behind that?
Well, because there was a joke associated with the gun.
Okay, but you just like
I delivered. I pulled it out delivering the joke.
Yeah.
And that's
joke, a bold choice.
The joke got laughs. In fact, someone after the show,
laughs?
It may have been, but after the show, I think it was a couple specifically came up to me and was like, "Hey, I really liked that bit you did with the gun."
Yeah, we were fearful for our lives.
No. I also, this is just a little secret here. I didn't just pull it on a random person in the audience. I did have a plant there. That was my mom that I pulled it on.
Okay.
I also didn't randomly steal someone's wallet. I was my mom.
Okay.
Like, I'm not that dumb.
Yeah.
Almost that dumb.
Yeah. I want to go into the first. I ask a set of questions with my guests before we start the podcast. I'm trying to get vulnerable, you know? The current theme, I talk about what theme of life are you going through in this phase, you know? Me personally, I'm on the grind set right now, trying to do videos and podcasts. The one you said, the current theme of your life would be surrounding lies and storytelling.
Yep.
Let's talk about lies for a little bit. Liar?
That's most of it. It's the storytelling's inextricably linked with lying. But though that's something that I've been dealing with for a long time. Is that I don't even necessarily do it on purpose. I usually do it on purpose, but not always. I just have an impulse to lie often.
What is the latest lie you've said?
I probably said one in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah,
probably.
The lie that you're not a murderer.
Yeah, like that, for example.
That was clearly a lie.
That was one of them.
Why do you feel the need to lie? Don't you think the truth is always better?
Well, that's a very good question, actually. Such a good question that I'm lying. It's an awful question. No,
fuck you, Graeme.
That's a great question, and I think that
I would prefer a harsh reality over ignorant bliss. Like I think ignorant bliss is lying, even white lying. I try not to white lie. I try to tell the truth. You don't think that's better?
To some extent, I do think it is better. That isn't going to stop me, but there is definitely. I do believe in the statement that is often cited that it's better to not hurt someone when it doesn't matter. Like if it's somebody just did a performance at like a baby shower, for example.
Okay.
Even if I think the performance sucks, there's not any benefit in me telling them that. They're not a performer. They're not trying to get better. Telling them, oh, that was great, is just a nicer thing to do. But even in an extent where it more matters, something that you don't necessarily know if it matters, that's a lot more of a personal thing, and that's something that I myself need to struggle to grapple with avoiding. I find myself generally a lot more inclined to lie when I feel as though what it says what I'm saying matters.
Yeah.
Like if what you are going to take away something from this, I'd rather you take away something that's better than what may actually be the truth.
Okay, let's take the context out of like someone who performed at an Easter egg, someone who's a stand-up, because we're in the comedy world.
Yeah. Well, I think
lying to them?
Well,
what if they're just like...
That's not necessarily lying. That wouldn't be a matter of, hey, I think you did great. That's more of a giving feedback. And feedback, okay. I can give honest feedback. I can be honest, and I can give honest feedback. And I'm trying to be as honest as I can right now.
Yeah.
I often lie without thinking about it, and that's another thing. Comes to it as pressure. When I'm under pressure, I tend to instinctively lie. Like that's just my natural thing. If I'm put on the spot or I'm stressed, I just automatically start lying, which is very bad for job interviews.
Yeah.
There is a reason that I keep getting rejected.
Do you think it's a defense mechanism for people to approve you?
To some, in the case of like a job interviews especially, yeah. But also it's like I've was trained to do it, or it was a learned behavior for sure.
Okay.
I wasn't born coming out of the womb like, yeah, I did do a backflip on a pair of skis. Off of the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Just the whole place.
The entire
I was giant that day.
Yeah. Well, where did it come from then? Like if it was a learned behavior.
Years and years of just doing it.
But like, was it like you were in school and then like
partially
some kid was like said something?
I would often, what I'd do is I would get in trouble a lot as a kid. And so I would learn like, hey, don't be frank because that's just going to make your situation worse. Try and get away with it. And I think in some degree it came naturally. I also was a lot more of a goofball as a kid.
Yeah.
I was a very young kid. I recall, I don't know if this happened, but I recall somebody telling me that this happened at least.
Why?
And I would not be surprised if I did this when I was a kid.
Why?
Is that I, at some point, okay, this is maybe going to be a bit odd for a context. I went to a certain kind of school. It was called a Montessori school.
That's when you get to pick whatever, right? You get to pick your subjects?
It's not the subjects. It's that you're in a school and there are formal lessons and there are determined subjects, but there's a bunch of tools around the classroom and grades are often mixed. The one I was at had mixed grades, so you'd be with people within 3 years of your grade.
Okay.
And you would interact. You could use the individual tools or the individual things within the toys, tools, whatever they are, and you would learn at your own pace. You could choose what you wanted to learn, and if you didn't like history, for example, you didn't need to.
Yeah, you could just leave and then just go into.
Well, you wouldn't leave.
Class.
It's one big classroom.
Oh.
So there's no desks. Everyone's interacting with each other all the time.
Are there like multiple teachers around the room?
There's one
like,
I went to.
How do you learn a specific thing?
Well, okay. If you wanted to learn if the teacher often would do individual. What's the word? Lessons.
Like lessons, yeah.
Yeah, and she would get people in it because they weren't like huge grades. Most of the class size was because it's 3 separate grades. There were several different rooms as well. So everyone who was entering in at year, say you were a baby born in 2004, so you were entering grade 1 in 2000. I can't do the math. You wouldn't necessarily be in the same class as everyone who would be. There were, I think, 3 lower elementary classrooms. So we were in one of those three. I was in one that was labeled as B.
Okay.
Buzz. But I found that in there, what you would often do is she would get the small group of you, and she'd call you for a lesson, and you'd learn from those lessons, and otherwise you could talk to the teacher. Say, hey, I want to figure out what this thing is, or how do interrogatives work in grammar?
Yeah.
That's what I think. This is a side note entirely. That's just explaining what a Montessori school is like.
What did you do at the Montessori school?
One thing that often happened, there was this one kid who didn't understand sex because he was in grade 1, 2, or 3. It happened. Actually, he never got to 3. He moved out of the country before he got to 3.
Okay.
So he had this little, he's young. He's got this mischievous little grin on his face. He had hair similar to what I have now, but much less individually stranded. It was all just like one color.
You're like, this guy's a murderer for sure.
No, he was. If anything, he would probably be like a supermodel.
Okay.
But yeah, he had this whole thing where hey, you want to go to the bathroom and show each other our crotches?
You said that, or he said that?
No, he said that. He would offer that to other boys, not to girls. To be clear, he's not. Anyway, I distinctly remember at one point he asked me this, and I said, yeah. And I went in there, and apparently somehow it led to me with my head in the empty toilet, like there was no water in there.
Oh, okay.
And I have stuff like that, for example, is what I was. This has been a long tangent to explain that I was considered a bit of a goofball as a kid.
How would you get your? But like, you put your own head in there?
I was just as skinny as I am now. So that was.
You stuffed your head in the toilet?
But it was empty. There was no water in it.
Yeah.
And obviously, by proxy, no urine.
Yeah.
And I have no memory of this happening, so it could have just not happened. But stuff like that, the teacher would find out and get me in quite a bit of probably very confused trouble.
And you get yourself out by lying.
I learned make up a story or lie or come up with some other alternative, soften the blow, something like that. And as I got in a lot of trouble as a kid for doing stupid stuff or being a mischievous ADHD-ridden child, little knee biter, I would have to more and more work on this skill. And I think that leading up to, especially when I found out, because this was as a kid, I also learned about drama, and I instantly fell in love with the idea of it. It's really fun to me. Even though I wasn't very good at it, it was still fun.
Yeah, of course.
And I was good for a child.
Yeah.
Especially if you wanted an angry child that could probably murder your whole family.
Yeah.
Look where that got me. Now I'm a calm adult that will still murder your whole family.
Yeah. So it all came from that.
It came from a mix of getting into acting and trying to fake it till you make it, and just needing to actually develop a skill of lying as a kid.
So I'm your teacher.
Yes.
And I'm like,
you're way too skinny for her.
Graham, why was your head in the toilet?
She was way less nice when she spoke. But, and that was, I think, part of it, actually, is the fact that I had a lot more. She was a pretty. I love her. She was an absolutely wonderful woman. She was Irish, and she taught me a lot about how to bake potatoes. I'm your teacher. She was. Graham! But I think the sternness was actually a large part of why I learned a feeling that I needed to, because I would feel more intimidated, feel more like, oh no, I can't get in trouble because this matters more with her. Yeah. No, what would you say though? Do you remember the line? No, because I don't remember the toilet head thing at all. Like I said, this is something that I was told happened. Oh, I see. And I would be unsurprised if it happened. Yeah. Because I do remember hey, you want to show each other's crotches thing? I specifically remember him doing that. He did that for 2 years. Weird kid. Yeah, no, weird kid. So then we go into storytelling. I think drama probably played a huge part in your storytelling. Yeah. And I found I instantly leaned more towards, I liked funnier stuff. The big 3 emotions I liked to do were
Funny, happy, and angry.
Angry, and then angry. Probably just angry again.
Angry twice.
Yeah, well, like angry as in fuming angry, and angry as in like seething angry.
Okay.
Like one of them's the horror movie I'm gonna kill you kind of guy. The other one's just like 90s high school drama I'm gonna kill you kind of guy.
Oh, okay, I see. What's the third one?
The third one was
funny.
comedy.
Yeah.
It was leaning more towards goofy stuff.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the one that I've stuck with most, even though I still do like writing, like
drama. Horror.
Horror. I really enjoy writing, especially not intergalactic, but eldritch kind of stuff. It's just so much fun.
What is eldritch? What is that? Like fantasy?
Have you ever read H.P. Lovecraft?
Cthulhu.
That's Lovecraft's most famous work.
Yeah.
That's eldritch. That's
okay.
They're often giant, sometimes intergalactic creatures that have they embolize. That's not the right word. That's what's happening inside me right now. They symbolize entropy, just incarnate.
Yeah.
And I think that is just really cool. The sheer size and indomitable nature of them, and also those are often just mixed in with body horror, and I like putting words into body horror. That's why one of my favorite words is flesh. God, I love flesh.
We all do. We all know, Graeme.
Okay. Anyway,
tell me a bit about the books you wrote. We were gonna do an audible of your books. Is it about?
Yeah. That one was started as a college application
for here.
For here, yeah. One of the extra requirements you could choose one of three. I chose initially was going to be write a short story of about 1,000 words was the max, and I liked because I'm most confident with my writing.
Yeah.
So I started writing a short story based off of my childhood. I particularly remember when I was really, really young kid. I would my favorite things were sitting in my bed waiting for my mom to come read me a bedtime story.
Oh, that's sweet. That's cute,
it was sweet.
Yeah.
If only I was still there. But that was like one of my most fond memories.
Yeah.
So I was based off of that, and then it was also based off of a friend of mine. Her name is Natasha. And I just wanted, like, she at some point moved to Windsor. And
I
so
see. And you never
I just
saw her
kind of
again.
wanted to make fun. I still talk to her.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to make fun of Windsor. So, like, I made it based off of those two things. I pretty quickly realized it was not fitting within 1,000 words.
Yeah.
And so I scrapped it, went for another one of those things to apply to the college, and then later just decided to finish it. It was turned into 25,000 words.
That's crazy, Graeme.
Yeah, but that's mostly just because I had one description of... So it was partially based off of that friend of mine. I had one description of her, and I just kind of wanted to include that description, so I needed a reason for her to be a character in the story, and that led me down a rabbit hole. Because now I need to explain why there's a bar involved, and how did they get to this bar? Well, no, they know. I explained how they get to the bar. They walked. What does this bar mean, and how does the story end? So then, yada yada, it got a lot longer. But I enjoyed writing it a lot.
Yeah. That's cool stuff. I want to go to the second question. Anything you're currently struggling with? We kind of touched on this.
Yeah.
But the morality of lying. White lie and a disastrously consequential one. If the lie was propagated for the purpose of entertainment, where does that lie morally?
Yeah, and I think that's a really direct question. Yeah, well, I wrote it. Ooh. Yeah. I think that one of the main things at least for me, if I'm thinking about lying, like an active lie, I'm mostly focusing on I'm focusing on two things. One, how likely is it that I'm going to get away with this and that they're not going to know? And two, how likely is this going to be to cause bad things, bad outcomes? And if it does, can I wiggle my way out of it? I am not a diagnosed pathological liar.
You're like trying to get away with shit.
I'm not a diagnosed pathological liar. yet. Mostly because I have not been tested for this.
Yeah.
Might be a sociopath. Who knows?
We need to get you on those fucking lie detector tests, man.
Oh boy, no, because those I would fail even if I was telling the truth.
Yeah.
Intentionally.
That's okay. That's
the
fair.
way that because the way
it's your heartbeat.
Yeah,
right?
the way polygraphs work, you can, if you're a really, really, really cool, chill guy, you can easily pass them.
Yeah.
It's not just heartbeat, it's also brain activity and such. But also, if I just really forced it, I could probably get it to say everything was a lie. And then I can intentionally do that. I can make something that is a lie, or make something that's true a lie, so that way the actual false thing is what it seems like is the truth.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Do you think like a huge portion of the negativity surrounded that is the ruining of relationships?
Oh,
because you lie to someone and they're like, "You lied to me, Graeme. Why did?" If they find out, you know,
absolutely. I'm sure it can absolutely wreck relationships. Part of the reason I'm probably never going to be in one.
Or like friendship. I mean, friendships and stuff.
Yeah,
friendships, relationships. Like both. Like even family.
I've never experienced lying to someone that caused such a bad outcome that they ceased to want to be involved with me. Most people I know that have ceased contact have just been gradual.
But they don't catch. Have you ever got caught in a lie?
Of course I've gotten caught in a lie.
And then
sometimes I'll just say like, yeah, you're right. Complete lie. But sometimes I'll even call myself out on it beforehand.
You're like, I was just lying about this the whole time.
No, it's more usually directly in the thing. It's like, oh yeah, I know a girl who's from Whistler. Oh really? No, that's more like the how I usually call myself out on them.
Yeah. But they're like kind of stupid little dumb lies.
Well, stuff like those, I don't even do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Like it just happens.
Like how your body shakes on stage when you're not trying to.
Yeah, I guess kind of like that, yeah. Or how my legs are currently shaking right now.
Are they?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, man, chill.
That's ADHD.
So, but when you think about it morally, where does your mind go?
Morally, I think I think lying is a morally acceptable thing to do. And it's funny you asked this, who would have guessed? The other day actually was doing some reading on old, I forget his name. I remember his last name, but I don't want to butcher it. Cusack. My mouth is so dry.
From what book?
It's an essay.
Okay.
It is a native writer. He was, and it's about his time in the residential schools. Okay. And his experience there. His last name's Cusagat, I believe. Cusagak. But I know I'm butchering that partially just because I don't 100% remember the name, and also because my mouth is dry. But anyway, I read that. I read his essay. It's very powerful, and one of the things in it specifically mentions how in many Inuit cultures, and many indigenous cultures, if not all of them, in Canada at least, there was not just a stigma, but a flat-out refusal to accept someone lying, since they didn't write stuff down. It was all of their history was through oral tradition. Lying was seen as a cardinal sin.
Yes.
And you wouldn't do it. You flat out wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And that fascinated me immediately, because that's such a foreign concept to me. I've been doing it for so long, and I see that I haven't never even considered that there would be that it's not just natural human nature necessarily, or that there are cultures that would absolutely chastise you for it.
Yeah.
But that definitely gave me a little bit more of a nuanced perspective, I guess, to it. And I found that I'm still overall in the think that lying is a thing that both A, morally should be acceptable, and B, is just like practically useful. As long as there's there's another case, like have you ever seen Dear Evan Hansen?
No.
Okay, so it's a play and then a movie starring Michael Cera. God, I love Michael Cera. Awesome guy. Anyway.
He's a cool dude.
He's the best. It's a movie, or a play and a movie. It's about a guy that is really anxious, and then he tells one lie accidentally because of his anxiety. about someone this one bully that no one liked, who killed himself, and who had previously signed his cast because he had a broken arm. And he tells that lie to the parents because the parents see him and think, oh, wow, you're the only one that your only friend our son ever had. And he's nervous and he tells a lie, says, oh, yeah, no, I knew him. And then tries to clarify it, never gets a chance to, and it all spirals out of control until eventually he has to tell the truth. And it's his entire relationship with the family and social status has completely plummeted to nothing. It's a very good story. But yeah, that is a situation like that. I believe, yes, that's definitely where where it becomes morally reprehensible. But in a context like that, I don't think it's the lie that's morally reprehensible. I think it's the commitment to it that is, and the repeated reinforcement to let these people who are grieving take you for what to make you like as their savior, so to speak.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of an analogy I guess I would use for it.
Do you feel, not with relationships to other people, but the relationship to yourself, do you often find yourself lying to yourself?
Oh, yeah, of course.
About what?
Oh, about all sorts of things. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I should be here. I have 3 legs.
But don't you think that's bad? That's not real. It's not the truth.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where it blends into over into the topic of storytelling for me, is that you can get by just completely making stuff up at this point. You can live a life not equivalent to what your own life is. You can become less of a person and more of a character. You can be fake to entertain. You can be fake to make people like you, to be happy with other people, and for other people to be happy with you. And I find that's really how it's manifested into me, that I don't really even know. I often think to myself, wait, did this even happen, or is this a story I made up years ago and then forgot?
So you kind of live in this world where like you can't really distinguish what's reality and what's something
I can distinguish it outside of myself. I can tell that you're real, and that my hand is real, and that this water bottle is not real.
But thinking back, you won't know if it's a story or it's something that
sometimes,
happened.
not always.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I think the thing is with life, it's kind of the Buddhist philosophy, is life is suffering, right? And the reason why it's suffering is because it's confusing. And then stories is an answer to the confusion. You know what I mean? It's like what we could be. So I agree with you to like an extent, but I think going into the world like these stories are real, I think that's where I draw the line. Because, like, life is life. Like, life is, like, it's like the harsh reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But also, like, they're usually not... None of the stuff that I say that I specifically later don't even remember if it's true or not, that is particularly... None of it usually is particularly pungent or important. Usually they're just, like, funny little stories.
Okay.
It's not like, oh, yeah... I remember I got hit by a car, and then that was just something I made up, and now I forgot that I made it up. I did indeed get hit by a car when I was 9. That isn't just made up.
Yeah.
But like potential details of it all might be. Like there was a time where I had misremembered something, and it came into how the story went, is that I had been crossing the road to get ice cream rather than the opposite, where there was an ice cream truck. I was crossing the road to go back home, so I couldn't hear the car because of the ice cream truck. I couldn't see it because there was a line of SUVs in front of the truck. So from my angle, I just couldn't see it.
Yeah.
But that detail of which way I was going completely shifted there, and that became the reality for me for a while until I remembered, or until I thought about it. It's like, wait a second, no. If I was hit on my right side, and I was hitting the side of me that is this one.
Yeah.
And that broke everything on this one, because it was the impact that actually broke my bones.
Yeah. Is there a I'll share first, of course.
Go ahead.
But is there a lie that what's the biggest lie you're telling yourself lately or in your entire life? For me, it's caring about what other people think. I think I tell people I don't care what people think of me. I got a tattoo on my ass of a kiss because I kiss my ass to anyone, whatever people think of me. But the thing is, I think maybe it's because I'm starting, like when I started school doing comedy again, like you're in the spotlight and you're being judged. And it kind of like reignited that feeling of like, ooh, like I kind of do care. I tell people I don't care, but I really do. And I'm trying to stop, like dial it down. Like Mark Breslin, the owner of Yuck Yucks, he talked and he said he would like just stamp a thing to people who are giving him complaints about his club, like fuck off and die. And
eat shit, actually.
Yeah, eat shit and die. And I find that so like such an admirable trait because that's something that I'm trying to deal with. That's probably the biggest lie I've told myself.
Yeah.
Is there a lie like that for you?
Definitely. And this, I think the biggest one for me is definitely that, and I find it's just a general confusion that has caused me, is that, okay, I need to go back for a bit of context here. So a lot of friends of mine have been, this has been going on for years, some of them it's assuming, some of them it's just insisting that I am one of a myriad of things. Some say, oh yeah, he's definitely gay. Other ones like, oh yeah, he's actually a closeted trans person. And the
closeted trans person, like you want to be a girl?
Yeah, that I would be that I'm a trans person hasn't come to realize it necessarily yet. That's one of them, or that I just am not open about it.
Yeah,
which I am not, to be clear, as far as I'm aware. This is thing like that's where we get to as it being a lies that I honestly don't know what at this point I have maintained like I'm the pinnacle of manliness. I mean, just look at me, like clearly. Yeah. And to that point, to the extent of that, that's a sarcastic comment. But like, I honestly don't know where at this point where I even am in terms of how others perceive me. Yeah. And I've just been lying to myself. I think trying to convince myself that others definitely are just always wrong and all of their perceptions are completely off base. Like, there's nothing like somewhat feminine about. Here's the other one is that a few people have thought that I was actually born a woman and I transitioned to a man. That's the weirdest one for sure. I don't know how to refute that one necessarily. Yeah. At least not in a way that's timely. And not going to prison. Yeah. So that's like the biggest lie. Like you're kind of I've been lying to myself about who I think I necessarily am compared to who I necessarily actually appear to be to other people. Trying to convince myself that the other people don't necessarily think that. Rather, it's just that they say they do. Interesting. Let's go to the third topic. What is the ultimate truth you realize? You realize that knowledge is relative and humans are naturally not immune to manipulation. So when you say that, do you feel the need, like you were manipulated or you are manipulating? Oh, very manipulative. I am very manipulative. Oh, so much. I'm so manipulative. Like it's what? Bad. Like how? If you're okay to share your manipulation. Shoot, I'm giving it all away. I know, you're like, tell me your dirty secrets. Yes. My dirty secrets, I once really just stared at a crow for several hours. Did you actually? No. Okay. That's one of the lies. That's also not a dirty secret. Unless I just like really got on to this crow. Yeah. I don't know. I'm still thinking about birds in the back of my head. Yeah, I'll show you the 4 birds. I would love to see the 4 birds. Yeah. I love birds. Yeah, no, I don't. But why? Do you not like birds? I don't dislike birds, but I think that living with my dad has made me like birds less. Okay, fuck birds for a second. How do you manipulate people? Like why? And okay, how first? How? Well. often lying is
yeah, it's a form of manipulation, of course.
And it often comes down to acting is something I really enjoy doing, and I don't think I'm good at acting on stage, but I am good at lying. I'm good at convincing people of a thought that I actually am thinking something, or I'm going through something. So I often, and I have a lot of commitment to that sort of thing. So one thing that I will often do is I will pretend I've forgotten something. And I just can't remember it, like, oh, there was a word. And usually there's not even a purpose for it. Like, I'll just be in the middle of a sentence and I'll say, oh, what's the word? And I know exactly what the word I'm looking for is. And I will just delay that sentence indefinitely.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
That's just like, I don't know why. It's just kind of a thing that I have developed and started doing. And it's like, to some degree, it is also like I guess here's your answer as to why, and this isn't entirely why, because once again, entirely why, I don't know. But to some degree, it is with maintaining looking at people, do they still believe that I don't remember this thing? Do I still have the effect on people where they are willing to trust this thing, or trust me when I pretend something? It's a very, very, very manipulative mindset. I don't like trying to hurt people, to be clear.
Yeah, you're not trying to. It's just something...
It's partially just like a natural response, and also partially just like a honing in on a skill, because this is, to the extent of entertaining, that is one of the things. Something is less entertaining if it's not believable. To be a believable person is to help. And also it's just kind of fun sometimes. That's the third part of it. But when it's fun, it's usually just because it doesn't matter. The fun part of it, the fun is like trying to convince someone that the moon landing was actually done not by Neil Armstrong, but by Red Skeleton.
Yeah.
That's not one I've tried, but now that I've suggested it, I'm going to try that now.
Any of the manipulation, is it to get anything? Do you to ever persuade and for your personal gains? Not like, we don't have to talk wealth-wise, but just like
just
wise.
In general. Always there's something to gain from it, which is people. You gain favor. People you gain if you're doing it well, at least, and you're not like manipulating someone into wanting to kill their family or something.
Of course.
Is that you can gain status, you can gain sympathy, you could gain all sorts of things from that. Maintain a direct connection with someone that you may not have otherwise had.
Yeah.
And that is definitely sometimes not as much necessarily sympathy, but I'm more directed towards like, hey, I've now got your attention, or hey, I've now got you to think, to be distracted so I can do something else, or I've now gotten you confused so you're losing track of what you're thinking.
That's a lot of...
Yeah.
It's a lot going through your brain at like any given moment, Graeme. I would like that's a lot of layers.
Don't worry. I make sure to maintain my brain power by doing hours of not thinking, so I can just save it up. You know, I'm like a bear on hibernation. Hibernation's not a day. Bear doing hibernation.
That's pretty crazy stuff. Do you ever notice people trying to manipulate you?
Sometimes. I do sometimes notice people trying to manipulate me. One of my personal favorites was a thing where someone tried to mess with me, screw with my head, and then it went so hilariously backwards. It started with some people who I had met online, and I reached out to them, and at some point I needed to give one of them my email address. So I gave one of them my email address, which has my name in it. So they knew my name, like full name, not just first name. And then I told them that I later mentioned another guy had asked him like, hey, what did you say his name was? I'm really curious. I won't tell anyone, or something that I didn't give him permission to give away what my personal information was, but he did it anyway. And they were planning to, at some point when they were both talking to me, he was the one that didn't know it initially that asked this other friend.
Okay.
I'll say person A and person B. Person A is the person who knew at the beginning. And person B is the guy who was told. That they were planning on doing. Person B was going to just say it while talking to me casually and as if I would notice.
Yeah.
And he did, and I didn't because I'm stupid. That exchange then went to when they picked up, I was like, yeah, hey, I know your name. I then said, oh yeah, no, you didn't, because I didn't pick up on it initially, so I had the advantage there to say that the reason I didn't pick up on it initially is because it wasn't really my name, that it was a fake email address with a fake name.
Yeah.
It was a real email address with a fake name, rather. And so I did that. I used that leeway, the small amount of leeway I had, to say, yeah, no, that's not my name, and then went further and further explaining every facet as to why I would have said, because I had previously mentioned that person A knew my name through the email address to person B. Mm-hmm. Or rather, I mentioned it to a third person, and person B heard that.
Yeah.
So I was able to convince them that person C would have already had that idea from person A, so that's why I was trying to keep a story consistent there. And so that's when person B overheard it. And I went through like layers and layers of just explaining how, quirking out every possible piece of this puzzle.
Yeah.
That I had involuntarily signed up for. Like the fact that there was any way for me to weasel my way out of this was up to a very low chance, and also very quick thinking and quick explanation. Mm-hmm. It got, by the end of it though, the person B was sure of my name. Person A, no idea what my name was. So funny, man. It was definitely, that's like my most just...
Yeah.
That's probably the most effective I've done it.
The last question, we have 3 minutes left on the podcast. Okay. The last question I asked all my guests, what would your advice be for people trying to find meaning or purpose in life?
I think that you're definitely best off trying to be honest with yourself, trying to be honest to other people, but...
This guy talks about being honest.
However, I also think there is definitely a time and a place and a circumstance to which you shouldn't try and be too honest. You should at least sometimes be able to tell somebody something that they don't necessarily, that they would rather hear, rather than telling them something that they would just hurt them for no reason. I think that is definitely, and having the ability to convince someone that yes, you do indeed think something that you don't necessarily think, is just a useful life skill altogether. You've had job interviews before, okay?
I tell the truth in job interviews, and
but like
not getting one.
Even so, you put up a bit of a character, you put up a bit of a personality to it. Yeah. Even that's still lying. That's creating a false truth.
I don't know. So, in conclusion, lie.
In conclusion, be decent at it. At least understand when it's something that you should do.
You know, Grandma.
And understand when it's something you shouldn't.
I don't agree with it, but it's. I will take that into consideration in my life.
You do it all the time, just in ways that you just don't consider it lying.
I will try and remember a lie when I'm packing all this gear up, but I don't remember me lying at anything.
I just gave you an example. Playing up a character to someone is being disingenuous. That is a falsehood. That is an untruth, even.
Okay. One question before I leave. Graeme, when you fall and slip, are those lies, or are those bits, or are those real?
Usually it's real. Yeah.
Okay.
Very clumsy.
All right. Thanks for watching the podcast. Stay on Average Fools. Thanks for watching the podcast. If you're interested in watching my comedy content...
We're destroying the economy! I can't buy a house because of you! dare! Don't you!
I do acting, so I usually get typecasted as young athletic male or young entrepreneur or the guy you bring home to your parents. Ladies? Okay. Alright, anyways.
You owe me child support. Step up and be a man. This is your baby. And then a picture of baby Joe shows up on a TV screen like that. You can view it on Patreon for only $5 a month. Thanks for watching and stay on Average Fools.